With all the recent videos I've put out about the solar system and the roof being replaced in the house, and me kind of messing around with the insulation, I thought I might do a video on EPCs, Energy Performance Certificates, because I used to be a domestic energy assessor and I don't think people know enough about them. They don't really understand them. So EPCs, they are just energy performance certificates for the property that you live in or that you own, or maybe it might even be an office. But for the domestic setting, if you are planning to sell a house and it's expired, because they last a number of years, if it's expired, you just hire an independent domestic energy assessor, DEA, and they come to your property and they use a tablet which has a government bit of software on it called SAP, and effectively all they do is they input all the property information that they can find, that they can measure, that they can see, and from that information it outputs an energy performance rating. So that's what it is, and it's very strict. So because the assessor has to upload evidence of all the information that they input into the web platform or the system, they can't really lie or go wrong. And if they do, they have the risk of it being assessed and audited, which means it's void and they have to repeat it again anyway. So there's not much point pressurizing the assessor to kind of manipulate or trying to improve some small aspect of the house to try and improve your score, because small differences don't make big differences to the overall rating. So you can see in this example of EPC rating for my house, and if you look at my other videos, you'll see the kind of shape and size of the house. It's currently an E rated at 50, so at 50E, which is pretty bad considering new houses. And also here it says it has the potential for a D. So when I was doing this and I gave the results to people, they weren't very happy. Some didn't really care. Some were really not happy with the results. So things that they consider. So an assessor, upon arrival to your property, they may introduce themselves, they may explain what to do, but the first thing they do is they edge the property. So they, looking at the house, maybe asking you some questions, they should be able to ballpark whenever it was built. And from that, it automatically assumes the building regulations at the time of building the house. And from that, it works already quite a lot of information about its energy efficiency. From there, the assessor will go around and measure the thickness of walls. That has a big impact on the thermal conductivity and heat loss of the building. They will determine whether or not there's cavity wall insulation, either by the edge of the property or by retrofit cavity wall insulation. If there's small holes around the property windows, walls, there'll be circular holes which have been refilled. That's where they pumped in the insulation. They will ask about extensions. If there's evidence of the extension, they will ask maybe whenever that was built, because that again has implications on the building regulations whenever it was built. They will try to measure the window thickness, so the double glazing. Very thin old double glazing is less efficient than thicker, more modern or double or triple glazing. They go up into the loft, they will measure the loft insulation, and that has a big impact because a lot of things, like 25% of heat is lost through the roof. So there's standards and requirements on loft insulation. And there's much more. There's LED lights, there's the number of toilets, water fittings, showers, bathtubs. There's a lot goes into these assessments. So a thorough assessor would take 45 minutes to an hour to do it properly. Maybe a more experienced one would be a bit faster. And at the very end, the customer would get a link to the EPC report, which is actually uploaded onto gov.uk website. And from there you can see the grade that it's been given, and then it automatically calculates the potential grade. So it as well itself will advise how you could improve your EPC rating. There's a number of steps on each EPC report depending upon the information input by the assessor. So some may suggest basic things like LED lights if the house doesn't have any, or if the house is already maybe got all that sort of stuff, it will suggest other things. So for me, the EPC is quite old now. I think it expired this year, but step 1, it recommended a hot water cylinder installation, and also tells you roughly how much could be saved each year. So for me, £33 per year. And then it suggests the improvement that it'll have on your EPC. So there's step 1. It brings up the overall rating from 50 to 52, but it still remains in the E band, so not a massive saving. And then the next step is a hot water cylinder thermostat. It suggests it's around £200 to £400, and the annual savings is around £23. And again, that is assuming steps 1 and 2 have been completed, and the overall rating is 53, and it's still in the E category. So there's 2 small things that we could do to improve the energy efficiency, but it doesn't have a massive impact on the EPC. To bring it up into a D is suggesting room thermostat, so heating controls. Again, this is advising £300 to £400, £60 a year saving, bringing it up to 56, and an energy rating of a D. There's a step which got you into the next band. Floor insulation. So my property has a suspended wooden floor, so there's a cavity, like a void underneath, and it's suggesting if I was to insulate that floor, it would have quite an improvement, bringing it up to 58, and also in the category D. But that's also assuming points 1, 2, 3, 4 have also been completed. And then replacing the boiler with a condensing boiler, so it's an oil heating system, £2 to £3 grand, £70 per year saving. But again, it's assuming all the previous steps have been implemented. We're now at 61 and also a D. And then steps 6 and 7, so solar water heating or PV. So solar water heating would bring it up to a 64D. It's quite a bit of investment, £4,000 to £6,000. And then PV solar, £5,000 to £8,000. Annual saving of 260 supposedly. This was produced a good few years ago, and we're now in a C band. So these are big capital investments. This is kind of showing what is possible, what you would have to do to bring it up to a C. Since this EPC was produced, the software's been changed, the app's been changed that these assessors use, so these calculations may be very different now. And as a result, if I was to get the house reassessed today, I actually have a lot of these complete. I have solar PV in the roof, as you've seen from one of my previous videos, if you want to take a look. I have replaced the oil burner. I have insulated the suspended floor with PIR, Kingspan foam boards. That was a fun job during winter. Heating controls, I have a Nest central heating system. And the hot water cylinder hasn't changed much, to be fair. Maybe that's something I need to do. The next technologies I think people will really be installing is like heat pumps. I really want a heat pump, particularly with the solar and the battery. A heat pump would work quite well on my property with all the extra insulation I've put in place. What can you do to improve your score? You could look at your old EPC and see what it suggests. You could, if you haven't done an EPC in a while and it's not available on the Gov website, put in your postcode and look at your neighbours' houses, most likely very similar construction, and see what they say. My advice is think about the construction of the building. So the next time you're redecorating a bathroom or a bedroom, think about the wall construction. Is there cavity wall insulation? Think about if you can install insulated plasterboard on the exterior walls. So that reduces the heat loss from individual rooms. And that's kind of what people do to passive standard as well, which is another topic altogether. But if you're really redecorating the whole house, maybe you have to look at the plaster because it's kind of bad or falling apart. If you use insulated plasterboard on your external walls, but take evidence, which is the most important thing, because after you do all this work, if you bring in an energy assessor, A, you have to remember to tell them that they have been insulated, and B, maybe take some photographs so that you can prove to them that you've done this. Or alternatively, just make sure you can take off a few plugs so you can show them that it definitely is insulated. So that's one tip. Make sure you use LED lighting, insulate your floors, maximize your insulation in the loft. Another big negative is your heating systems. Having a dual fuel system seems to have like a negative impact because often the dual fuel is like a coal or fire oil burner, which is very carbon intensive. so it has a negative rating. As your primary system might be your condensing oil burner, which is a bit cleaner, or even better like natural gas, or even better again, heat pump. There's only so much can be done. Predominantly it comes down to building fabric. The property is what the property is, unless you rip it apart and insulate all the walls, basically rebuild it to modern building standards, you're not going to get a super high rating on an old house. So do what you can, see where the budget stretches, but remember the return on investment on insulation is far better than anything else. You spend the money once and it is providing savings for many years into the future, 20, 30, 40 years. One of my next projects is to refurbish the bathroom. So it also needs a lot of insulation. It is a very cold bathroom, and as part of the last video about the roof being replaced, you'll see that there was a lot of damage done to the ceiling, so that's another reason why it's going to be refurbished next. And I'll probably move the hot water cylinder during this time, and then I'll maybe get the savings that the EPC mentioned. So stay tuned, please subscribe, you'll see that. Thanks for watching.